Welcome to Speaking of Crypto with your host, Shannon Grinnell.
Today I talked to Dominic Hrabe, founder of EvolvEvents, about why the American healthcare system is broken, why he thinks segmentation in blockchain is coming, and what makes World CryptoCon and Vegas Blockchain Week unique. Dominic is a people person who believes in bringing people and talents together in order to help accelerate and proliferate and really grow a project that can become greater than the sum of its parts. And I'm really excited to be part of World CryptoCon in Las Vegas 2019, where I'll be emceeing at DevCon. But before we get started, a huge shout out and a big thank you to our show sponsors. Thank you to Ledn, Stark, and Lolli for sponsoring the show. Wonderful, Dominic. So thanks so much. I really appreciate you coming to chat with me. And it's so great that we can talk about what you're doing with this conference. But I thought maybe we would start a little bit about your background because you have a healthcare background. So I thought I'd ask, can you tell us about what drew you to pharmacology and what your educational path was?
Yeah, that's really interesting. It kind of takes me back down memory lane a little bit, evaluating that. But I was in high school and I should back up a little bit before that. So before high school, I was really puny. Like I was really, really small.
Interesting.
And I was a super, super picky eater. I didn't like eating anything my mom cooked. And
happens with a lot of kids, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it was so bad that like my parents hospitalized me a couple times and they had to do like IVs and all that kind of stuff just because.
Oh, wow.
And so anyways, that was probably, when between the ages of like 8 and 12 and something like that. And then one day I was with some friends and, I grew up in a really small town in central South Dakota. And so we went to this weight room, this gym, and I couldn't even bench the like 45-pound bar. It was really embarrassing. Aww. And so I enjoyed it though. I enjoyed the feeling that I got from it. And so I started going again and again and again and again. And I just made a repetition out of it, made a habit out of it. And so I started to get results. So I started to do really, really well. And then I started actually competing in powerlifting. And I did awfully well at that as well in high school. And so I grew from a really puny kid to having a really amazing physique. But through that process, I got really interested in like supplementation and nutrition and pharmacology kind of just was an extension of that. And then I declared my major in college and I went through that education. And then when I graduated and I went into the workforce, it was really interesting because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. When I got into it, it wasn't, my intent was to really help people and, help them become healthier and not more sick. And what I started to notice was that in the medical establishment here in the US is it's very much it's a money, it revolves around, the financial opportunity.
Absolutely.
And it keeps people sick.
And it seems like very like, chasing a symptom rather than kind of looking underneath to try and find out like what's the underlying problem.
Exactly. It's a very reactive model.
Right.
And so, that light bulb went off my head and I started, kind of searching for other different opportunities. And it's just something that it didn't jive with me, the whole reactive healthcare.
Yeah. Which makes sense, right? Like you came from this, it's like a change background, right? Where you went from, something that was seemingly kind of unhealthy to creating this like really healthy young adult. So you were trying to help other people do what you did and found that you just couldn't, it wasn't where it was.
In this architecture where you're limited in what you can do and what you can say. I can't share necessarily, hey, the way to get off your high blood pressure medicine is you need to exercise more, you need to, eat more healthfully, you got to do things that can be done to actually lower your blood pressure or lower your blood sugar in cases of diabetes and type 2. And doing these things can improve your life. Now, we have, shows on Netflix and documentaries and all that stuff. And it's become more omnipresent. It's not so inconspicuous that it was back was a teenager where, people were still smoking in their houses back then.
For sure. So different world, right?
World in just 20 years. So anyways, that was kind of my pharmacology life, if you will, in pharmacy. And so that's changed dramatically in the last few years.
Yeah, it really seems that way. And then it seems like what your big thing was that you just wanted to see change happen and help other people get excited about what changes they could, participate in. I can see how maybe that would draw you to the Bitcoin space. So maybe can you tell us about how you got excited about Bitcoin and that story of how you got into it?
Yeah, it kind of falls under the whole thing where you're told one time and you don't take it serious. You're told the second time and you take it more serious, but you're told the third time and now you're really taking it serious. It's like the whole thing with, so a friend tells you to go to a movie. You're like, okay, maybe. Another friend tells you to go to a movie. Now you're considering it. Now another friend tells you to go to a movie. You got to watch that thing. You're going to go.
Yes, so much so that I come from sort of vegetarian background. I was vegan for a little while, but the whole Bitcoin space is carnivore, right? Everything is meat. And even I've thought should I even try? It really does when you hear it over and over again and how people are really excited about something, it does make you question your own thinking.
Absolutely. Yeah. For me, it was, I don't consider myself very technical at all. I can use technology, but I don't necessarily understand the background and I don't know how email is,
the underworkings, right?
Email,
yeah.
Right? Of it. And so, back in 2012, I had a good friend of mine who's just brilliant, very much into tech. And that was the first time I'd ever heard about Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't conceptualize it. I couldn't wrap my head around it. And it seemed interesting, but And I remember the price then. It was somewhere around $35, and I just shudder to think. But I ignored it. And a couple years later, I had another friend. Those two friends did not know each other. And this friend had just left a conference, actually, where he was actually going to start working with Dan Larimer on the BitShares project, right? And establishing that and, kind of growing that because he had some marketing background and, he's working with all these guys that are technical and all that stuff. And so he was telling me all about the space and how seismic it was going to be. And so I started to pay attention.
And where were you living at the time, Dominic?
I was living here in Phoenix. I had moved to Phoenix about 15 years ago now. Yeah, 15 years ago. So I had been here for probably let's do the math, probably about 8 or 9 years. And so I put those two gentlemen on the phone together and I'm just kind of listening. I'm passively listening and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I need to go do something now. So I remember buying my first Bitcoin, out of McDonald's, from, handing over cash to some guy and waiting for the transaction to confirm. And I just thought, this is really bizarre.
Sounds a bit like a drug deal, but
exactly. I'm a pharmacist, so, they're good at that. But I had a friend there with me to kind of, hold my hand a little bit. And anyways, that concluded. And I think Bitcoin then dropped in price, go figure, after I bought it. And so I kind of forgot about it. I forgot about the whole thing, after a couple, maybe about a year and a half. And I think around the early part of 2016 is when things started to kind of move back up. Mm-hmm. And I started to see, on my Facebook feed, everybody and their dog was talking about Bitcoin this, Bitcoin that. And so it made me take attention. It made me pay attention again. And so I started just learning what I could, study a little bit. If I didn't understand a term, I'd search it. If I didn't understand, what this meant, I'd search it. And obviously maintain communication with my earlier friends. And so it started to become very present in my life at that point. And the more I understood about it, the more I started to realize how just transformational this technology is. And so I was in the medical business at that time, and I went to a couple of my partners and I said, listen, I don't know what we're going to do in this space, but I think we need to do something. And I don't know if that's, developing an app or developing some sort of technology or whatever it is, but we need to do something. And so one of my partners, he identified that, there's a lot of different conferences going on, but they all seem to be doing somewhat of the same thing. And I agreed with him. And so we started just, exploring different opportunities on how we could kind of fit within the niche of the conference space in this technology, in this industry. And we just started putting one foot in front of the other, and we started meeting this person and that person, and this resource came into play, and this resource came into play. We just started attracting everything, and it was really eerie, kind of how things were just coming together so seamlessly. Nothing like that had ever occurred in my life before.
So cool.
It just unfolded naturally. And so we had our first conference last year, WCC 2018, World CryptoCon, and by and large, it was an extremely successful event, and a lot of positive feedback from the community, and we're looking to build on that again this year.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, I love the story about things coming together, and it seems like everything's sort of meant to be when it just kind of seamlessly comes together like that. What's funny is I'm just remembering your story about Bitcoin and how it was your instinct to put your two friends together in order for you to kind of learn more. And I feel like that was something that you had in you, and which is probably why you've gotten into events, organization, is because you have that, okay, if we put these people together, it's going to be sort of better for the whole.
That's a great connection you made there, Shannon, and one that I hadn't even really thought of myself, but you're absolutely right. And, if I'm good at anything, it's putting people together. And, the actual organizing is not something that my girlfriend would say that I'm great at. but just being able to identify that this person's got a talent here and this person's got a talent here, and how those talents can work together. Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not technical, but I know people who are, and I know people who aren't, but I know people who are creative, and I can put those things together. And so for us, our team very much exemplifies that those complementary talents as well. And so we're just really thrilled and excited about this ecosystem and where this ecosystem's going and how we can add our imprint to it. And, we're not so much focused on the competitive elements. There's a lot of conferences out there. We prefer to collaborate. The space is big enough for everybody. And, as the pie grows bigger and bigger and bigger, that niche will grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And so we're just really excited about, the next, 5 to 10 years of what this industry holds.
Yeah, so exciting. Well, looking forward to talking about World CryptoCon and your other events. But maybe before that, I thought, if you're in this healthcare sort of world, did you ever consider doing some kind of, healthcare conference like blockchain/healthcare or crypto and healthcare?
We haven't talked about it. We haven't talked about it like we're going to do that right now. But we do see further segmentation of the blockchain ecosystem, right? It's kind of like, in the early days of the internet where it was all, I'm an online marketer. And now if you're a marketer, you don't even have to say I'm an online marketer. You're just,
True.
it's just,
right. It's given.
It's given. It's embedded in who you are. And we believe that blockchain is going to filter itself and integrate itself into every aspect of our lives. And so whether that's in healthcare, whether that's in automotive and transportation, whether that's in supply chain and logistics, whether that's in, aeronautics, you name it, right? It is weaving itself within every single different industry out there. So as industries start to segment, yes, we anticipate that we'll start developing, we're doing tracks on that this year. And in fact, in medical and medical payments, we have a great conversation around that. So as it starts to filter itself more deeply into these industries, then yes, we'll start actually having maybe a half-day event or a one-day event, depending on the size of the technology within that industry and the impact that it's having. But yeah, that is definitely on the foreground.
Yeah. And are you personally excited, because you come from that healthcare background, about, either tracking user data using like devices or something, or, patient records? What stands out for you as something that has real potential?
I get asked that quite a bit. And it's so interesting because for those people who, I don't think it's an obvious, I think it's a pretty obvious statement to say that healthcare is, the most friction-filled, intermediated, industry there is. I mean, there's toll seeking and there's rent seeking throughout the entire value chain constantly. I mean, the amount of fraud, waste, and abuse that is in the healthcare system is, I mean, it's estimated that it's as much as 20% of the total healthcare cost, at least in the US. I don't know about in Canada, but in the US, it's very, very substantial.
It's a whole other system in Canada. So it's, because it's mostly government funded. But in the US, do you know what the entire healthcare budget is?
I don't know. I heard that number recently and I forget exactly what it is, and I don't want to misquote it.
That's okay.
But it's enormous. It's a substantial amount of GDP. I think it's actually, I want to say it's like 16-17% of US GDP, which is just, that's mind-boggling, right? Mind-boggling. And that number is just going to keep growing. It has been growing. It's been trending up, and especially now with the ACA, Affordable Care Act of 2008 or so. But that it's just been trending up since then, and there's really kind of no end in sight. It's just keeps absorbing more and more of the federal budget. But therein lies the opportunity with blockchain, and I just think the fact that blockchain becoming a security protocol, it with security embedded inside of it. I mean, now your ability to port your own identity and be in control of that as a consumer, as a healthcare consumer, is supremely important. Because right now, I mean, you see so much fragmentation. Doctors' EMR systems don't interoperate with one another. So they're all speaking different languages. No,
it's difficult. Every time you go to a new doctor, you have to give them their entire health history often, right?
A piece of paper for Pete's sake.
Right.
How archaic are we? Now we're still using ink,
Yeah. Or I've gone to see like a naturopathic doctor, and they want to start from the beginning as well and sort of look at you holistically. But again, you're repeating like all of the same old information.
Repeating all the same old information. Now we do have electronic prescribing, but even that is not interoperable. Right. There's just so much. There's so much, lack of standardization, and something that's happening in the automotive industry that's going to be showcased at our conference. Little plug there. So, the Mobility Open Blockchain Initiative has worked on and created a vehicle identity standard for automotives, or for vehicles. So, which is groundbreaking, which is very, very important in the whole autonomous vehicle revolution and how cars communicate with one another and how the Internet of Things and all that stuff happens. So the consortia approach that they have attracted with all the different OEMs and they've agreed to this vehicle identity standard is really huge. Something similar like that has to happen in the medical industry, right? Some type of consortium standard that allows that interoperability to take place. And so right now, that hasn't happened yet. Now,
because there's so much competition, probably, as you're saying, right?
Yeah, there's so much competition, and it's just there's a lack of standardization out there.
Right.
And two, as the ecosystem and as the marketplace starts to understand blockchain and how to most efficiently, integrate it into our systems, things will start to improve.
Right.
I think it'll probably be some time before we notice a significant improvement in the medical industry with it. But I think that there's enormous opportunity. I mean, there's a few different projects out there that are, they're working on it, but it's still going to take some time.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, I wanted to get into World CryptoCon and how exciting it is. So you said you're not really, competitive around, let's say, with the other conferences or that. But how would you say it's maybe different or unique than some of the other conferences that we have in this space?
Yeah, how I would characterize it is we like to add a little sex appeal to the conference space.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's been, kind of the same old speakers, the same old content, or let's say, for instance, now it's like I've talked about earlier, it's starting to segment a little bit. So now, you're having conferences just around a single chain, or you're having conferences around a single kind of industry vertical or something like that. What we want to do is we want to engage a greater cross section of the blockchain ecosystem. From the casual, enthusiast all the way to the developer and the venture capitalists and everything in between. And so what we've identified and what we've done is that we've expanded our product offering from last year to this year to extend beyond just our conference, but to bring other conference organizers in, other communities in, to have their own conferences underneath our umbrella, and have it all pack it in during a week.
Did you create the idea of the Las Vegas Blockchain Week?
Yeah, it's actually Vegas Blockchain Week. Yep. So it's Blockchain Week, and so we have the Litecoin Summit, we have EOS Alliance Summit, we've got our own native conference, obviously, we've got Charlie Shrum's Crypto IQ trading event, Michael Turpin's Coin Agenda, and I mean, I think all told we have somewhere around 12 or 14 events either occurring or about to occur, and it's all happening underneath one umbrella and one agenda. So if you go to New York Blockchain Week, the events are all over the place, right? So you have this event here, you have this event there, and you can't really get an all access ticket, right? So you pay your ticket to Consensus, $2,500, and you go to Consensus. But that doesn't get you into all the different, if you want to go to Ethereal, you want to go to all the different events, you have to pay to get into those as well. So we have all access, Vegas Blockchain Week Pass that covers everything, and, for about the price of a Consensus ticket. And you can come to every single event all under one roof for the entire week. And I just think it's important because, if you're in this industry, regardless of where you fit within that archetype and that, where you are in the ecosystem, it's important to be there because everybody else is going to be there. Right. And whether you're a VC, whether you're a startup, whether you're, an enterprise, whether you're a small, medium enterprise where you're looking at how can blockchain, disrupt my industry, if you're answering any of those questions, you want to be there because the answer to your challenge or your problem is likely going to be there in the resources that are there.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's going to be a really huge week, obviously. And what do you think? So you did this 1 year before. What would you say are your greatest learnings that you took from how things went last year and how you think they're going to go this year?
I think for me personally, it was aligning with the right people. I think, because we were new to the industry last year, it's, we probably made some mistakes in just, not aligning with some professionals in certain different, from a vendor aspect, right? And not in the crypto community necessarily, but just from a vendor standpoint.
You want to make sure you're avoiding the scammers and you're not, promoting ICOs that people are not excited about, right?
Yeah. There's that, and I also too from a vendor aspect of actually our specific vendors, not vendors at the conference, but vendors we're utilizing for our services to promote the conference,
right?
To build a conference, right?
Right.
So we're a lot more selective this year in who we work with.
Interesting.
And looking to establish and have established a lot of strategic partners that we're very, very confident with now. So it's just that kind of growing pain that any business really goes through.
Absolutely.
You get started and you're kind of just trying to kind of fit, set your feet in the sand a little bit. And, and kind of really understanding who am I working with? Who am I going to be able to work with long term? Am I going to be able to work with this organization or this community or this person for, a couple weeks, or am I going to be able to work with them for 10 years? So it's building those strategic partners that I think we've taken a lot more earnest approach to doing this year, that we are kind of maybe just trying to work with whoever out of expediency last year.
Right.
So this year we've taken a lot more purposeful action on that side.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, it's great to have that learning, and then you can improve for next year. So it's good that you guys are figuring that out. What are the other events that you're organizing? So it's right now it's part of our Vegas Blockchain Week. And does EvolvEvents do other events? Yeah, we had a small event in Barcelona this year. Amazing.
It was just kind of a lifestyle event, just kind of, hey, if you're in the area and you want to come and learn about blockchain, and that kind of stuff. It was very small. We didn't really promote it very much, but it was just something to kind of reason to go to Europe and go to do this. And
love it.
Yeah, so it was
beautiful city, Barcelona.
Yeah, exactly. And so we have our sights after this conference, after Vegas Blockchain. We have our sights set on expanding globally and internationally, and we're excited about that. I can't mention anything specifically.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned, definitely. We are very excited about the possibilities going forward into 2020 and 2021.
Well, you all are calling it World CryptoCon, so there is this aspect of a global takeover that's coming, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. I think that was when we first set out to name it. We had some ideas around it, and it was the rural aspect. But again, I mean, it's also indicative of what blockchain is, right? Blockchain is not just, a regional technology, or it's not centralized. You can't contain it. And it's omnipresent. It goes everywhere. And so, we want to be represented by that. And we want to represent the technology well, and how that, is understood in the minds of individuals throughout the world. So, we love Vegas, and Vegas is always going to be our kind of like our home base and where you come back to. But we definitely want to expand the brand international.
Have you traveled around the world, even for research purposes, to kind of see what else is out there and what other people are doing?
Yeah. So, one of the things we're doing is we're strategically aligning with certain individuals and organizations that already have built. We're going to rely a lot on their expertise in those different markets, because to be able to build a conference from scratch in a foreign market is not easy. So you have to rely on eyes and ears and the strategic partnerships that I alluded to earlier,
right,
to actually put something on successfully in those markets. But yes, we're planning on doing that more in 2020. But yeah, we've done some of that this year and last year. So the site is set. It's just now a matter of executing, getting out there and organizing it and planning it.
Mm-hmm. So What are you going to tell us? What country or no?
I'll tell you. I could tell you which region. Europe is going to be one of them, and then Southeast Asia.
Cool, amazing.
So I like warm weather. So Southeast Asia.
Same.
Maybe we'll have to do Europe in the summer.
Sounds good to me. Great. Well, the reason why you got into this is because you're excited about crypto and blockchain technology. So I thought I'd ask, what do you see? Where do you see it going? Where is this space going in the next, let's say, 5 or 10 years?
I mentioned this a little bit earlier. So segmentation, I think we're going to see further segmentation of blockchain really infiltrating, and don't mean to use the negative connotation of the word infiltrating. But for a lack of a better term, blockchain really infiltrating a lot of the different industries out there, right? We're seeing that, and we're going to be showcasing a lot of those different use cases at our conference this year, whether it be in automotive, whether it be in medical, whether it be in supply chain, AI, and how blockchain is going to work with AI and Internet of Things, IoT technology. So how it's going to really, 5G, expanding as well. So how it's going to move into those different industries, I think, is ultra, ultra, ultra fascinating. Mm-hmm. And seeing that it's happening now, not like I remember, 2 or 3 years ago when, you got CoinDesk or Cointelegraph up, and, there's a few articles a day. I mean, there's 20, 30 articles a day coming out.
It's hard to keep up.
Yeah, you can't keep up. I mean, CNBC, we have, Pomp is speaking on CNBC, and Meltem Demirors, and they're, they're given incredible stage time. And now, there's a Bitcoin ticker symbol at the bottom of CNBC. It just blows my mind. And where we've come in 2 years, let alone where we're going to be in the next 5, Shannon, I think is, obviously a lot more institutional investing. Your John Q. Public being able to buy, Bitcoin with, 1/10% of his portfolio or whatever he does with a click of a button. Mm-hmm. I think the more that the financial industry and the regulatory aspect becomes more clearer, the more of an absolute wave of innovation starts occurring. And I listen to Mark Yusko. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's Morgan Creek Digital along with and he believes every 14 years there's like a seismic technological shift. And he believes that beginning in 2024 is the era of the blockchain. So according to that, we're not even there yet. We got 5 years before 2024. But just to see where we're at now to where we'll be by 2024 to really, really kind of launch pad into, every societal structure that there is, every technology that we have, having blockchain in it in some form or fashion.
Yeah, it seems like that's coming, and that sort of timeline makes sense to me. Like even you were saying, looking in your Facebook feed a couple of years ago, and everyone's mentioning Bitcoin and blockchain, and well, Bitcoin probably at that stage, but it doesn't mean they were using it or even buying it. It was just sort of talk. And so nowadays, people are starting more so to buy more, or actually, touch it, well, physically have it on their phones and things like that. So that sort of timeline sounds right to me. That it's still this tiny segment of the population. And I think your prediction is right around sort of specializing in different areas and segmenting kind of different types of blockchain and different sections of the industry.
Well, I remember, in 2014 when I first, opened up a wallet, and I thought to myself, I'm like, oh, the user interface on this thing is just terrible, clunky. I'm like, it feels like I'm working with MS-DOS,
I know, primitive.
Yeah, this is so primitive. And I thought, like, how could anybody use this? My dad couldn't use this. I could not teach anybody how to use this as a user. And now here we are, it's a few years later than that.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 years later. But now it's like you got the apps on your phone, you scan the QR codes, you send it, it takes it 5 seconds. And the user famous, and we're still early, but seeing where we are with just the advancement of the user interfaces, I'm really encouraged. I'm really encouraged. It's exciting to see as the technology as more eyeballs come into the technology. Just for instance, myself, I mean, if you look at, I was in the medical industry, but now I'm in this industry, and, we're all putting our stamp on it, right? I mean, all of us, before blockchain, we were all doing something else.
Absolutely.
Realize that we were all doing something else, and now we're doing blockchain, right? One form or fashion. We're in this industry. So what's going to happen as more and more people come in and help us build the infrastructure out? It's the opportunity. It's the time to be a trailblazer.
Absolutely. It's like what you were saying about the online marketers. Nobody's saying they're an online marketer anymore. They're just a marketer. And of course, they have an online presence. And that'll be the same for everything else, where, you probably won't even be using the word blockchain. You'll just be explaining your decentralized application that lives on top of your blockchain.
I was just literally, you took the words right from my mouth. It was exactly the thing. And we don't know if we're going to use the word crypto. In fact, with World CryptoCon, we identified that last year. Hey, we may not end up using crypto. Might be such an overused word that it doesn't even get used anymore. Just like blockchain, right? So we don't.
Could see that.
Yeah. So it's just that's the way a technology really matures, right? Is necessarily talk about, it's just embedded into the nomenclature what you're talking about. People know you're talking about it.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we'll look back like 5 years from now and see how silly it was that everyone sort of talked about what might happen and be sort of mesmerized by what's going on at that time. So Dominic, do you think that there'll be one blockchain or one cryptocurrency or one token or one wallet that's going to kind of win out and become king, or the killer app?
I mean, I don't think so, and I don't think it's good for the consumer or good for the ecosystem if that were to take place. So my personal hope is that that's not the case. Now, will we live in a world where there's a handful of different blockchains that are the rails, the super rails, if you will, where we're all and they all interoperate with one another? I could see that. I could see definitely some consolidation. I don't think there's going to be a world where we have whatever the number is, 2,000, 2,500 different projects and tokens out there. I don't know as if there's enough, bandwidth or utility for that. Maybe there is, but I think that eventually those consolidate too. And, we as users, we end up, using a half a dozen or a dozen different, chains. And I don't think that we actually will know that we're using them, right? Kind of like what we talked about. I don't know how my internet, my email provider works. I don't know
what's living underneath my apps that I have on my phone, right?
Yeah. We have no idea, right? So, and I think that, those with the best systems, the best onboarding, the most easy, frictionless ways in which to onboard people and attract people, I think is obviously there's going to be significant market share opportunities there. But I just don't envision a world where it's one. I don't even envision a world where it's 2 or 3. I think it's a half a dozen or so, a handful of top projects that are not projects anymore. They're
right. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, now you, as a conference organizer, you come across a lot of projects. And how do you weed out those that are not so reputable versus those that you can get 100% behind?
It's for us. It honestly, Shannon. It's too arduous of a task for us to really go into, really dig deep into their business model to look at them like a VC would look at them, right?
Right.
So you just
don't have the time, really. I'm sure.
We don't have the resources to do that. So we're very agnostic and neutral. So if somebody wants to have a presence at our conference, they can have a presence at our conference, right? It's a matter of, hey, here's our fees, and here's what it takes to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm. Now,
if something's pretty blatantly obvious, then we're not gonna associate ourselves with it. So
you'll say no to certain projects if there's something off.
Correct. If it's pretty blatantly obvious, then we're not going to associate with it. Yeah. But also too, we have to come back to center a little bit and give everybody their opportunity to market their opportunity in their project.
Yeah, there's a lot of projects that are in the beginning stages, and they may have a lot of funding from ICOs, and you don't know that they're not going to produce anything eventually. Well, so it's also probably timing.
Yeah, how do you separate the wheat from the chaff if you're in 2017? I mean,
yeah.
A lot of people lost money.
Absolutely.
Lost money, and it's the regulatory environment that we're in. There was no regulation. Right. So, you have this ICO craze where people are throwing good money towards, hopes and dreams. And, it's what happens in any type of frenzied cycle like we were in 2017.
Yeah.
And it's not just blockchain. It's happened years and, cycles before us. Right. The
Absolutely.
internet IPOs of the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah. The whole .com boom and everything. Yeah.
A lot of people got burned. A lot of people got hurt. And it's just the way of the land. And that's why you as an investor, if you are an investor, need to, be looking at these projects and this technological innovation just as you would anything else. Have to evaluate it very, very considerately. Yeah.
Right. So that said, are there any projects that you are really excited about that you wanted to highlight or mention?
I don't like to highlight or mention them because I don't want to exclude their competitors.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm just in general very encouraged by the space and the innovation that I'm seeing. Because 2 years ago, if you had told me that my job or my business is doing what I'm doing, I would have told you were out of your mind. So
that's great.
What I'm doing every day and like speaking to some of the people that I'm speaking to is just I have to pinch myself sometimes because. These are the people that I look up to and follow and I really believe, and I've said this to a lot of my friends that are not in the blockchain space, and typically sometimes it gets them into the blockchain space, but I really believe that the people that we're communicating with in this ecosystem are the Bill Gates and the Steve Jobs of tomorrow. And that, 10 years, 15, 20 years from now, we're going to look back and be like, oh yeah, I know that guy, he's, awesome. It's like, oh, that's everybody considers him the Steve Jobs of blockchain or that organization, or what have you. So those trailblazers, those trendsetters, those just brilliant minds, they're here and now in our ecosystem. And to mention our conference again, they're going to be at our conference. And if you've never attended a conference in blockchain, obviously you have, but I'm saying for your viewers, if they've never been to a blockchain related conference before, the amount of sheer belief that you get from going is just astronomical. For me, it wasn't really until I went to a conference that I really saw how seismic and how enormous and transcendent this technology was. I had an idea, but getting an idea and feeling it viscerally and being in the, being there with other brilliant minds is the most, pivotal opportunity for me in this space. And so the access that you get people can go up and talk to Brock Pierce if they want to at a conference. People can go up and talk to Pomp at a conference. They ask them direct questions, stuff that you can't do and engage with, anywhere else. So the accessibility, the opportunity to really connect with some of the top trailblazers in the space is there by going to a conference.
Yeah, it's really exciting that, in person, that we don't do as much as, in our daily lives. We do so much of our life, online and communicating online, even like we are now. So to be able to have that opportunity to go in person and chat with someone is fantastic. But I should say you're, I think, one of those leaders in the space who, as people come in more and more over the next few years, people will be looking up to you as well and all that you've been doing in this space. So you should be commended for everything that you're doing.
I appreciate that, Shannon. It's funny, there was a joke last year where we were communicating with a lot of people and we'd be talking to them and I'd be like, well, so how long have you been in the space? And they'd be like, oh, about 6 months. And I'd be like, well, you're an OG at this point,
Right, yeah, pretty close. It's true.
Months. I mean, that's better than many.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. It's true.
But as the space matures, you're right. It's funny. One of our strategic partners, Strong Block, the guys from Strong Block, David Moss and Thomas Cox, former Block One guys. They're just phenomenal guys. And Thomas is revered as one of the top experts on governance in blockchain. And he will even tell you that, he's just scratching the surface of what he knows about blockchain governance because it's brand new. He's a creator of it. He's a trailblazer of it. So, there's going to be more and more brilliant minds that come and bring their kind of little twist to the system.
Yeah. And as different personalities collaborate, they'll bring different things to the table. So then the space will evolve with the people coming in. Right. Super exciting.
It's more diverse.
Absolutely.
As more diverse ideas come in and start, hey, have you thought about this? Well, you guys have been doing it this way. What about this? Right. So being able to bring in those other kind of idea sets and talents to the existing architecture just makes everything stronger, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just on a sort of personal or your own personal sort of career side of things, what do you think your greatest learning this year has been for you?
This year is really setting our sights higher. And I don't know if that's a learning necessarily or maybe just an observation, but it's something that in year two in any business, I think you start to get a little bit more confident in what you take what you learned, you take what you did great, you expand upon it, you take what maybe you could improve upon, you improve upon it, and you refine your approach a little bit more. And so this year, I think it's towards refinement. So I think it's refining our vision for what we want to do and what we want to create in this space, and then really adding some rocket fuel to it. So that's something that we're looking forward to doing in 2020 and beyond. And coincidentally, it's funny because I think a lot of people expect with the halving happening next year, there's rocket fuel added to Bitcoin too. And so we feel that we're really growing with the space. We're growing in concert with it. And it's like our growth cycles almost perfectly. And then other conference organizers will say this to you too, but the attendance rate of most of these conferences is very much linked to the price of Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
So as Bitcoin does, as does the community. And I think eventually we're going to get out of that a little bit. The space will mature to a point where if Bitcoin goes up and down $10,000 in a day, it's not going to And in order for Bitcoin to go up and down $10,000 in a day, it's right. So I think as it matures and that happens, I think we'll be less subject to the vicissitudes of the price of Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with 2020, I think the other thing about next year is even just the name 2020, like thinking about that number, I think there's going to be this excitement about the future and technology and just there'll be this energy around that year in particular.
I agree. I think there's definitely something to it. I don't think that, Bitcoin happening in 2020 is a coincidence. I think that there's just there's going to be some incredible growth in this space into 2020 and beyond. So we're excited. We're thrilled with just the amount of attention that the entire ecosystem's getting. In fact, I was on the phone with a representative from the Calibra and Libra team yesterday. And so just seeing, and I know there's a myriad of different opinions about it. And again,
what's your opinion?
My opinion is that, I think that Libra and Calibra, I think that whether they're intending to do this or not, that they advanced the ecosystem by at least a couple of years.
Just by coming out with saying that they're doing this project.
By just bringing attention. I mean, when you got the president of the United States now tweeting about Bitcoin and blockchain, that's something that wouldn't have happened without Libra. I mean, it would have happened eventually. Mm-hmm. It didn't happen without the announcement of Libra. And so for us, as part of the ecosystem, to get that level of PR and that
absolutely
eyeballs now, and doing it inside of still a kind of a bear market. We're in the spring, I think, of coming back up from that. But for that to occur, and when it occurred, I think is hugely, hugely bullish for the space.
Absolutely.
So regardless of whether Libra is, just another centralized mechanism inside of, a cryptocurrency or a stable coin or whatever people's opinions about that is, I think we can all agree that them doing that has brought such a substantial amount of awareness and eyeballs into the space that can only be bullish for the space.
Absolutely.
So with it, what they do with it and how it actually gets unfolded and how things manifest is anyone's guess.
Now, you said you were on the phone with someone yesterday from Libra and Calibra. Were you going to mention something about that?
So that's something that it's not secure. I can't confirm or deny anything there, but
you had a great conversation.
I will tell you that we're working on something that could be really, really exciting and enticing for participants and attendees at the conference.
Exciting. Really cool. Is there something for anyone who's brand new to crypto and blockchain? What would you like them to know?
Buy Bitcoin. One of the mistakes.
It's a great way in.
Yeah, just get your feet in. And one of the mistakes that I made, and I'll never forget it, when I first came in to the space, I wanted to, Bitcoin was $600 when I bought it, I think. And I didn't buy nearly enough, I'll tell you that much. And the biggest mistake that I made though was I started buying other cheaper tokens. And I started buying tokens because they were a cent, 5 cents, 10 cents, $1, whatever it was, right? And I'm looking at Bitcoin's like, oh, it's $600. Well, I can get this for 2 cents, and that's just me being a novice. I didn't know any better, right?
Yeah, I think that's fairly common. I think most people see, well, I can get so much more of this, so it's like a discount.
Yeah, the likelihood of this going from 1 cent to 20 cents is a lot better than the likelihood of this going from
absolutely
3,000.
Seems like basic math.
How ignorant, right? And so if the number one advice I would have for people who are just getting into the space is just start buying Satoshis. Just pick up as many fractions of Bitcoin as you possibly can and just start doing it little by little and dollar cost average in. And my good friend who initially told me about Bitcoin back in 2012, that's exactly the advice he gave to me in 2014 and I didn't take it. And so I now 4 years, 5 years later, am learning the lessons of that hardship. But I'm not gonna. There are other projects out there. Don't get me wrong. I think there's enormous value in them. But I think if you're building a portfolio in the blockchain space, a significant aspect of it should be Bitcoin.
Fantastic. Yeah, totally agree.
And I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't.
Right.
Definitely can't. You do what you want to do, but that's just been my own experience.
Yeah, and I usually say, just as a reminder, not to invest more than you can afford to lose. Like, start with that and see what happens. And do you have any discounts or promotions that we can offer our audience for the World CryptoCon?
Right now we have tickets at $797. They are going to go to $997. One of the learnings we made from last year was that offering all these discount codes and things did not yield what we wanted it to yield. And so we've taken a very purposeful action this year to really build up our value offering. And so we feel that at the ticket prices currently at $797, you're getting an enormous amount of value for what you're paying. I mean, you go to Consensus, you're going to pay minimum $1,500 a ticket. You're going to pay double that. And for our conference, not only are you going to get WCC, but you're going to get WCC DEF CON, you're going to get WCC Mine, you're going to get a lot of different conversations within the ecosystem, and you're going to be having structured networking with some of the top people in the entire space. In addition to having a lot of fun, we have a lot of after parties that are going to be extraordinary time, and that's really where a lot of business gets done too. And I think a lot of us don't necessarily take that into account, is that the opportunity to really connect with somebody, to really do a strategic deal or a strategic partnership, comes when you're not even at the conference. But
yeah, absolutely. Because business is about relationship building. And the more you can have sort of, one-on-one FaceTime with other people in those settings where you're comfortable and you're having fun, it really does help you build lasting relationships, which is always great for everyone's kind of win-win and everyone's business.
That's correct. So, I mean, if you look at the value offering that we're providing for $797 or I believe it's $1597 for the entire week, you can essentially come for an entire week for what it costs you to go to Consensus. And so being able to go to all those different conferences, being able to rub shoulders with all those different people. I mean, we got, guys like John Najarian with CNBC. He's going to be coming and talking about trading. We have one of the top chief of digital assets from TD Ameritrade. She's coming to speak. We have Pomp. We have Alex Mashinsky. We have Brendan Ike from Brave. We got Brian Bellendorf. We got yours truly, Shannon Grinnell here.
I am going to be there. I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. She's going to be there, and she's going to be doing a wonderful job kind of locking down our WCC DEF CON stage, which we're extremely thankful for and proud of. So
appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, so there's just a lot of stuff. We have poker tournament. I mean, I didn't even mention the poker tournament. We have our second annual Bitcoin poker tournament, World Crypto Poker Tournament, and we're going to have top celebrity poker players that are going to be there. In addition to, I mean, can you imagine sitting there like being on a table playing poker with Charlie Shrem or Brock Pierce or you name it.
But here's the question. Here's the really important question, which is, how do you put Bitcoin in the pot? You have to imagine. You're gonna have to have Bitcoin chips.
You get your chips, but yeah. So there's seat fees to that and all that stuff. But it's going to be really exciting. That's actually going to be at Mike Tyson's mansion. Actually,
that's crazy.
So it's pretty exciting. So that's where we kind of embed the fun element into it, right?
And it's also Halloween, right? It doesn't end on Halloween night.
Yeah, so the 29th is going to be the poker tournament. So that's World Crypto Poker Tournament. That's going to be at Mike Tyson's mansion. It's a 14,000 square foot mansion off the strip a little bit. We bus people there, and everybody has an amazing time. Play a lot of poker with poker celebrities, with Bitcoin celebrities. Have a great time, and if you win, you win. It's great. So there's that. And then we also have the Bitcoin Cryptoween, Bitcoin birthday party / Cryptoween, second annual Cryptoween. And that's going to be at the Chaos, the brand new Chaos nightclub in Las Vegas at the Palms. I believe, it's Cardi B and Marshmello are going to be performing. So
awesome. So costume required or in LA or in Vegas, it's like huge, right?
Yeah.
That's great. So, yeah, sounds fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it. Is there anything else that we didn't get to? Otherwise, I'd love to ask you some fun questions.
Sure, go for the fun questions.
Okay, let's do it. Number one, if you could swap jobs with anyone for a day, whose job would you want to try out?
Oh, if I could swap jobs. It sounds kind of funny, but not that, I'm political agnostic, but I think just understanding what a president does of the United States would be very interesting. Like, what does an actual day look like? I mean,
it'd be so cool.
Yeah, it would be just fascinating to see, like, then I'd know who assassinated Kennedy too, which would be pretty cool.
Did you ever watch West Wing or some political drama like that?
A few of those episodes, yeah. A few of the episodes. never got into it to go into it any more deeply than that. But yeah, I saw a few episodes.
Yeah, it kind of gives you, I don't know, at least what it seems like it would be like. So that's really fun. Number 2, what's the highest Bitcoin price or the lowest you can imagine Bitcoin hitting this year?
I know I see some technical guys that are talking about a potential drop to 5,500. I don't know if that, that wouldn't be great, but I would definitely be buying more at that point.
Absolutely.
I think the top could be around 40. I can see it 40. Now we only have 4 or 5 months to get there. I don't know as if I say 40 on the high end. I don't know if it's gonna get to that. But I could see 2025 real seriously. From where we're at. So who knows? It jumped from 7 to 14 in pretty quick time.
Super fast. And we also saw it go up to almost 20,000, right? So, double that doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility.
I agree.
Interesting. Number 3, what was the most challenging time in your career and how were you able to overcome it?
Probably the most challenging time in my career was when I was actually working as a pharmacist, and I had a new baby. My daughter was just born. And it was just really stressful time, kind of realizing that I was in an industry that I felt stifled in, and I did not enjoy where I was. And it was just personally and professionally, it was a real challenging time for me. What helped me out of it was the support of really, really good friends and family. That's always been a thing of mine, is I always try to surround myself with really positive, good people, good, wholesome people. And I think that's really, really important. That was a lesson that my dad instilled in me at a very, very young age, that you are who you surround yourself with. And
I think it's crucial to have people who are supporters. Correct. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And now you're in a different place. So all good. Number 4, if you could sum up your life so far into one moment or a place or a time in your life, what would it be? Is there some sort of pivotal, like things changed or something was really great?
Yeah, I think for me it was definitely the birth of my daughter. When she was.
And how old is she now?
10. Yeah. So yeah, and it went like that, the last 10 years. So any parent knows that, I think that, just the birth of your child or children is just it does change everything. Yeah. You go from typically, if you're like I was, where you're younger and, everything's usually about you, and then all of a sudden you have somebody that you're completely and utterly responsible for. It changes you. It changes you. I just remember from a visceral level feeling that. And so, I would say that changed me more than anything else. Yeah, I think kids are amazing. I'm in a blended family, and we have 3 boys, and we also have a little girl. So, it's a whole different world once you become a parent. Number 5, especially I thought I'd ask you this one, but do you follow any special diet, like the meat only, that carnivore diet, or keto or vegan or anything like that? I do intermittent fast. So, oh, you do? I've heard amazing things about for longevity. That. And as Colin Quinn would say, I starve myself intentionally. And why on earth do you do such a thing? So what's your rationale? Because it seems like the craziest thing I could imagine, diet wise, So I was never really a breakfast person. I never really liked eggs or sausage or anything like that. So it wasn't really difficult for me, because I fast from 8 or 9 o'clock at night until about noon or 1 the next day. And it wasn't that difficult for me to adjust to it. It took the first week was difficult. But after that, I've been doing it for a couple of years now. And you do it every day? It's consistent? Yeah, whoa. Every day. Yeah. Now there's different variations that you can do it a full day off or full 2 days off and then do it intermittently. Yeah. I've heard of different variations. Yeah. There's a lot of ways to skin that cat, but for me, what works is eating in an 8-hour window. So I'll eat from 1 to 9 p.m. But I love it. Do you feel healthier as well for it? It makes me more insulin sensitive. So that insulin sensitivity is a really big thing. So if you can, because as we grow older, our cells become more insulin desensitive. Interesting. Insensitive, I should say. So the more insulin sensitivity you can maintain, the better you are long term. And so it's a really, and not only that, but from a weight perspective, a cosmetic perspective, it just allows you to really hold your weight down. So for me, I notice that I can take some more liberties in the foods that I eat. I don't have to be so
restrictive
or restrictive about it, and I can still maintain my weight. So I personally love the intermittent fasting aspect. I try to eat as much vegan or vegetarian as I possibly can, but I live in a family where that's, there's other tastes. And so, I bend and compromise on that a little bit. But if I could just like choose my own diet, I would probably just be like a vegan or raw, because I just feel a lot better. I feel a lot better when I don't consume dairy or meat. But that's just my own personal,
And then do you have coffee in the morning? Like when you're fasting, do you allow yourself to have coffee or no?
I have tea, but I have a little bit of honey in it. So you can go up to, I think, like 50 calories, or I think that's like 2 tablespoons of honey. I only have like a tablespoon of honey. And so I have green tea with that. And that's just, maybe I'll put like an essential oil in it, a little lemon or something like that. And that's usually my cocktail.
Wow. Sounds super healthy.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thanks so much for chatting with me. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, thank you, Shannon. I appreciate it so much, and very much looking forward to meeting you out at WCC, and so thrilled that you're going to be there and representing us, and obviously doing some podcasts too from the floor as well.
I think that'll be good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dominic.
Thank you for the opportunity, Shannon.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Speaking of Crypto with Shannon. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And for more great content and to stay up to date, visit speakingofcrypto.com and Facebook and Twitter at Speaking Crypto. We'll catch you next time.